I left Japan not because I wanted to run away from radiation or anything like that, but more than anything because I felt I could do more outside of Japan than inside. I will say, though, that there were frustrations that I had never felt in the 27 years. And I think, a very different person at 23 years old when I first arrived to a person who was 50 and feeling that I could not wait longer, or the lengths of time that I had waited when I was younger for things to happen. I was then patient and I was learning the Japanese way and knowing that things took a long time. But after 3/11, I think my patience with waiting and being the quiet, laid-back foreigner in Japan was at an end. There's a lot of good work and a lot of energy being expended domestically by foreigners and Japanese to help get Japan back up. One of the things that I have done in my career in Japan is advise both Japanese and foreign companies to market themselves better, to work in public relations and communications. Funny thing, I very often was the spokesperson for many Japanese organizations and companies. And so I found myself sitting in a shelter up in Ibaraki, thinking, gosh, why should I be speaking for Japan now? Japan has to speak for itself. Japan makes a foreigner an optimist. If you live there for a long time, you have to be so, because there are a lot of things that could frustrate you. And I'm of the opinion that good change has come as a result of this. I would often say over the years that Japan will not change until a big earthquake hits. And I didn't wish that, but I felt very often Japan, and if you look at history, something major, a catastrophe, whether it be a war or a bomb being dropped, something happens to make Japan push the Meiji Restoration. Something happens to really push and propel those nails to stick out. So they can get hammered down, or so they can, resist the hammering. And that hadn't happened in a while. I think all cultures and all countries have their own spring. This was the year of the Arab Spring. This was the year of Occupy Wall Street. Well, I would argue that this was the year of Japan Spring. Writing about 3/11 for me is a process that has taken 27 years. Because I think as I try to write, thinking about, say, myself volunteering up in the north, I couldn't extract 27 years of living in Japan in that one year. So the first arrival to Japan, that enamored, view that Japan could do no wrong, that it had this global miracle power, and now seeing that from a global perspective, that a lot of that energy, or a lot of that the gumption that we really had become so used to seeing from Japan, was not there anymore. And it was still the same Japanese people. So how could that possibly have not been there? And so the difficulty I had in writing it is that I would find myself going back almost like the midnight in Paris, thinking there was a better era that I should have lived in. That was much better, and I wish I had lived in. But the reality was, I live in this reality, and that I have to do something. And that was what really propelled me to write about a more optimistic view of Japan, because I see a lot of pessimism, particularly in the media, particularly in a lot of colleagues that I worked with or lived with there. And I swore to myself that I would not be that.